My father left me a house in his will after his death, but my mom kicked me out so she could live there with her new family. 15 years later, I tried to reclaim my home, but they started threatening me, so I went to the police. I'm 24 years old now. Let me start from the beginning. My mom kicked me out of the house to impress her new husband. Alright, if kicked out sounds too harsh, let's say she evicted me from my own home and made me live with my paternal grandparents. All my good memories are tied to the time when my father was alive. Unfortunately, he died when I was only 7. I felt completely devastated. I was very close to my father, and saying goodbye to him at his funeral broke my heart. I still vividly remember that moment, and it still hurts to this day. While I was trying to cope with the loss, my mom brought another man into our lives and insisted I call him Dad. I thought, no way. I don't know if I was right or wrong, but it just didn't feel right to call him that. A few months after my father's death, shortly after we first met, I often saw the new man in my mom's bedroom. It was hard to watch how quickly she moved on. She didn't even wait a year before bringing a replacement into our home. I wasn't ready to accept this man. I had just turned 8 when they had their beautiful wedding. They threw quite a grand event, considering it was the second marriage for both of them. But that wasn't my business. She left me with my grandparents and went off on a honeymoon. A month passed, but she never returned. I kept asking my grandparents when my mom would come get me, but they had no answer. Then one day, she appeared. I was so happy to see her after such a long time. I ran to hug her. But she had brought all my belongings with her. That was, to put it mildly, heartbreaking. I lived with my grandparents until high school, and I was happy with them. My mom would visit me from time to time, just to say how much she loved and cared about me. Sometimes I asked her, "If you love me so much, why did you leave me with Grandma and Grandpa?" She had no answer. She tried to excuse herself by saying things like, "Oh, your grandparents are getting older. They need help with groceries and taking out the trash." Later, she admitted the real reason. She had given my room to her stepsons, the children of her new husband. 2 kids moved into our house after they got married. My mom chose her new family over me. Naturally, I was hurt by that. Eventually, I stopped trying to keep in touch with her. After finishing school, I moved out of my grandparents' home, but I kept visiting them often. They were my saviors. They raised me. If not for them, my childhood would have been completely ruined. Now I'm 24. After working in marketing for a year, I decided to start my own business. To do that, I needed some startup capital. So I thought I'd rent out the house. Oh yeah, if I didn't mention it earlier, here's a not so pleasant surprise for my mom and her new family. The house they live in actually belongs to me. Yes, that's right. My father drafted his will very carefully before he died and left all of his property to me, including the house. I was just a kid when his lawyer read the will at the funeral. But judging by my mother's face, she clearly didn't like it one bit. Later I found out she tried to challenge the will several times but failed each time. My father had it written with ironclad precision. The house was to be mine, but I wouldn't be able to sell it until I turned 21. Until then, no one could claim it. My grandparents believe my father saw this coming. He probably anticipated my mom's plans and made the will this strict to protect me. Otherwise, she could have manipulated me as a child to hand over the house. Last month, I called my mom to tell her about my plan to rent out the house, but she didn't answer my calls. This week, when I visited my grandparents, I told them I planned to make some money with the house. They reacted strangely. I asked, "What's wrong?" They said I might face serious resistance trying to reclaim the house. Because my stepsister is pregnant by a guy who ran out on her. Also, Bill, my mom's husband, lost his full-time job and now works night shifts at a store. Basically, they're in a tough financial spot. Now I really don't know what to do. I need that house too. I quit my job, and I need startup capital to launch my business. Update 1. Things got pretty dramatic. As I said, my grandparents told me my mom and her family were going through hard times. So they might not be willing to vacate the house. I decided to tell my mom about my plans and give them a few months to move out. At first, I planned to send a 30-day notice, but knowing their situation, I gave them 3-4 months instead. Since she wasn't answering my calls, I went to her house in person. The house wasn't at all how I remembered it. And my mom, she had changed. There was something cold about her now. Maybe she already guessed why I came. When she saw me at the door, she gave me a fake smile and reluctantly hugged me. Note: we hadn't seen each other for almost a decade. Yes, she stopped visiting me when I became a teenager. I held a grudge, how could I not? Despite all the time that passed, she didn't even ask how I was doing. It was clear I didn't matter to her. Her attitude was basically, "Oh, it's you. Guess something important brought you to my door." To please her, I said, "Oh, no, nothing important. Just came to check in. It's been a while." She smiled and said, "Yeah, it has." Then came 5 minutes of silence until I stood up to leave. It was extremely awkward. I didn't feel welcome at all. Besides my mom, my pregnant stepsister was also home. She looked at me like I had come to cause trouble. At that point, I gave up on the idea of reclaiming the house. I started looking for other ways to raise money for my business. But my mom crossed a line with her narcissism. Last week was the 15th anniversary of my father's death. My grandparents held a small prayer ceremony at church. Since I was in town, I decided to organize a proper event. Feed the poor and give gifts to underprivileged children. I invited friends and relatives to the prayer. I also sent my mom an email invitation, but she didn't reply. When I checked the email history, I saw she hadn't even opened it. It was the first email I had ever sent her. I thought maybe it ended up in spam or something. So I went to her house again. This time, my mom wasn't home. Her daughter, my stepsister, Brenda, opened the door. No greeting, no kindness. Just a blunt question. "You again? What do you want?" I said I came to see my mom. She snapped. "After how she felt last time you talked to her, do you really think she wants to see you again?" She said it so rudely that I didn't even register her words right away. I managed to say, "I came to invite her to the prayer ceremony for my father." She laughed in my face and said, "That was 100 years ago. Get over it." I said, "Excuse me, that's my father and it's not your place to comment." She rolled her eyes and walked back into her room. I sat on the porch for a couple of minutes, feeling like an idiot. Then left a note for my mom on the table, asking her to call me back. She called the next day, and I told her about the prayer event. She was silent for a minute, then said she couldn't come. She had to take Brenda to a medical checkup. I was disappointed. She could have at least said she'd try to come, but a flat no was hurtful. I replied sarcastically, "Of course, they're your priority. We're nothing to you, so be it. Good luck raising that narcissistic girl and her larva." My mom exploded. I said, "Why should I be polite to her when she's been cruel to me?" She mocked my father's death. Defending Brenda, my mom said, "Of course she got angry. You can't talk about the dead around a pregnant woman. You're as heartless as your father." That's when I lost it. I shouted, "Don't you dare speak ill of my father. If anyone here is heartless, it's you, talking about my dead dad like that." She fired back, "Your father died 15 years ago, for God's sake. Get over it." I said, "Sure, just like you did in a couple of weeks. Maybe even days. Who knows? You know what? Don't come. My father wouldn't have wanted your prayers if he saw who you really are." And with that, I hung up. That same day, I hired a lawyer and began the process of sending an official eviction notice. It took my lawyer about 15 days to confirm my father's will and deliver the notice to my mother. As expected, she was furious when the eviction notice reached her. Clearly, she never imagined I'd go this far. Especially not just because she skipped the memorial for my dad. I laughed when I heard her voicemail and blocked her number. When she couldn't reach me, she showed up at my grandparents' house. I wasn't there at the time. Yes, I'm living with my grandparents again while I get my life in order. She asked them to convince me to withdraw the eviction notice. My grandparents are kind, gentle people, so they didn't kick her out. They simply told her they had no say in the matter. The house is legally mine. And I can do whatever I want with it. Fair enough. She didn't like that answer one bit and accused my grandparents of raising me into a spoiled brat. Seriously? I asked my grandmother. Why didn't she say that to my narcissistic face? Then I said, "Well, now I'm done playing nice. I'm not letting them stay in my house another single day." I sent the eviction notice according to our country's tenant laws. Even though they're not paying rent and aren't official tenants, I'm the one paying the property taxes every year. So legally, I have every right to remove them at any time, even immediately. But my grandparents, being devout people, convinced me to hold off. They said, "For the love of God, give them at least this 1 month to find another place. There's a pregnant woman in there, we shouldn't throw her onto the streets." I sighed and said, "She doesn't need help. She's as toxic as my mother." But they replied, "Maybe she is a sinner, but the unborn child is not. Don't be cruel to that innocent soul." They convinced me to wait, even though I was ready to evict them that same day. The next day, my mother called me again. I ignored her just like she used to ignore my calls. She texted saying, "We need to talk urgently." I replied, "Check my schedule, meet me at Grandma and Grandpa's during my free time." She clearly didn't like that. She sent a long message accusing me of trying to manipulate her. But what did I do? Nothing. I didn't even respond. Maybe she finally got the message that I wouldn't cave in to her pressure. All throughout my childhood, whenever I cried or had a tantrum about wanting to go home, instead of comforting me, she scolded me and told me to behave. She instilled fear in me so I'd be a good boy and not cause scenes. That was her parenting style and it worked. To please her and avoid conflict, I'd stop crying. But after she left, I would sit for hours in misery. Now it's different. Now she's the one who'll be miserable. Except, unfortunately for her, she won't even have a house to cry in. My mom came to meet me, and I deliberately made her wait for an hour. She started getting anxious. I asked my grandparents not to get involved. She kept asking them where I was, but they simply replied that they didn't know and then quietly left the room. When I finally showed up, she looked at me with clear irritation, like her face said, "Where have you been? I've been waiting an hour." But she didn't say anything out loud. She sat down with a stone-cold expression. Most people in her position would try to charm me, but not her. She was still holding her ground. She said, "All right, I'll start. I can't sit here forever. I have things to do." I mumbled under my breath, "Of course. Finding a new place to live must be tough." She gave me an annoyed look and asked, "What's this notice?" I replied, "It's written in English. I'm sure you can read it. Or do you want me to read it out loud for you?" That pushed her over the edge. She threw the eviction notice in my face and yelled that she wasn't going to leave the house because of some stupid piece of paper. After her shouting ended, I calmly said, "Well, let's wait and see what happens when someone ignores a court order." She shouted back, "I gave birth to you. Don't you dare try to be smarter than me. That house belongs to my husband, no one can throw us out." I replied, "The legal heir can." I stayed completely calm, which only made her angrier. But the moment she called my father her husband, I lost my temper. I snapped, "You've got the nerve to call my father your husband? The same man you couldn't even honor with a prayer, the one you said was in the past. You don't deserve his house. You're all just squatters. And I'm going to clear that house of every last leech." She stood up and shouted, "I was being kind to you. Now you'll have to deal with my lawyer." I laughed and said, "Sure, go ahead. You've got 20 days. Let's see what you come up with." Update 2. After a long struggle, I finally got the house back. As I mentioned earlier, I sent my mom and her family a 30-day eviction notice. She came to me, tried twisting the situation with her usual manipulation, but I shut it down. She left. What followed was pure narcissistic drama. Can you imagine? Her stepdaughter, Brenda, came at me and even threatened to accuse me of harassment. She played the victim card, saying things like, "I can do whatever I want because I'm carrying a baby." I said, "Lady, pregnancy doesn't make you immune to consequences." She even tried guilt-tripping my grandparents. Until we showed her the security cameras installed around the house. I told her, "If you come back here again, I'll have you arrested." After that, my mom stepped in to protect her golden child. She accused me of insulting and emotionally abusing her poor pregnant Brenda. Then she announced she would sue me. I said, "Great, let the judge decide based on video evidence." When she realized force wouldn't work, she changed her tone, started crying, and said, "What did I do wrong raising you? How did you become such a selfish person?" She even dragged my late father into it, saying, "It's his fault. He died too early and didn't raise you right." I replied, "Wait, if anyone's to blame, it's you. Not for bad parenting, for no parenting. You didn't raise me. Grandma and Grandpa did. And they did a great job. You should apologize for abandoning me. But honestly, I'm glad you didn't raise me." Looking at how you brought up Brenda, I realize I dodged a bullet. I told her I didn't want to argue anymore. I just wanted my property back. I had let them live there for free for many years. Now I truly needed the house. I explained that I had quit my job and needed money to start my own business. So I was planning to rent out the house. She lost it, yelling that I was kicking them out just to rent the place to strangers. I said, "Strangers will pay me rent. If you want to stay, start paying too." She got even angrier and accused me of tearing apart the family. "You threw me out like garbage and barely cared about me," I said. "You never showed up for my birthdays, Thanksgiving, or Christmas. Even when you did visit, you made me feel like I was some charity case. What kind of mother does that?" "Oh, right, you." She tried everything: manipulation, gaslighting, guilt-tripping, and her trademark rage fits. When she saw I wouldn't budge, she left. You'd think that would be the end of it, that they'd pack up and go. Not even close. Mommy's unlucky husband hadn't joined the chaos yet. Then he left me a voice message. "Dude, you have no idea who you're messing with. I can lift you like a barbell and make you beg for mercy. One punch to the face and you'll forget about that house. Show up at my door again, and I'll knock you out." This guy is big and he loves bragging about it. I don't know much about him, but my grandparents warned me not to mess with him. He's a bully and dumb as a brick. He basically handed over evidence by threatening me in a voice message. I didn't respond. Instead, I went to the police on the day of the scheduled eviction and filed a report for the threats. I had solid proof. My lawyer came with me and asked the police to escort us during the eviction. When we got to the house, my mom, Bill, and Brenda started yelling at us. Bill even came out with a hockey stick in hand. But as soon as he saw the police car behind us, he backed off. The officers handed them the eviction notice and demanded they vacate the property. They were so confident they'd scare me off they hadn't even packed a thing. They asked the police for another month. The officers looked at me. I said, "That's not possible, not after all the threats." Then they tried the pregnancy card. Brenda begged for just a few more days. Still, I stood my ground. The cops looked at me like I was being cold-hearted. But I was acting fully within the law. No one could argue that. They kept bargaining, hoping to buy just one more day. I said, 3 hours. They glared at me with bitterness. Bill even tried to bump into me with his shoulder, eyes burning with hate. The officers shouted, "Start packing." After that, we all left. The police told me to bring the keys to the station, where I could pick them up later. My lawyer suggested getting a restraining order against them, just in case they tried to come back and harass me or future tenants. They were totally capable of it. I agreed. The police served them the court order and explained the consequences of violating it. The bitterness on their faces was priceless. So finally, I got the house. I listed it for rent and hope to get a good lease signed soon so I can finally launch my business. Enough of dealing with these thick-headed people. This is probably my last update unless that crazy family tries something else. Thanks for reading and supporting me through all of this. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think of the whole story.